Hi, I'm Dr. Powell and I teach marketing, and I was asked, how does marketing relate to dating? Well, my definition of marketing is finding out what people want and giving it to them. And I once was in the dating process. I'm now married, so this little ring, I guess I gave her what she wanted. More specifically, a big part of marketing is promotion. And promotion has this little acronym, AIDA. It stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. So really, I would say that that's largely what dating is about. You have to get the attention of the person you're interested in. You have to get them interested in you somehow, which thankfully my wife wasn't desiring someone with great physical prowess. But she was looking for someone that was kind of smart and had a sense of humor, and I had those things. And that ultimately made her desire me. And then finally, I got the action. I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. So attention, interest, desire, and action is how marketing relates to dating.
This is Mandy Sposato, and I'm the Associate Director of Career Services at Grove City College, here at the college. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about networking and dating from our perspective in career services. And I would say with networking, a big thing is just being open to making connections and meeting people. And you never know who you can meet. There's a story I had with a student that, a former student that I worked with who is now an alum, who a couple years ago she was riding on a bus to work with a bunch of people, and she got talking with a CFO on the bus with her. And they just started chatting a little bit, and she realized that he was a Christian. She was telling him a little bit about Grove City College and the school and stuff, and he was very interested in the college. And he said, well, I actually have a job opening for that would be great for an entry-level college graduate. And so they got talking, and that alum ended up emailing me about the opportunity, and we actually had a student that it was a perfect fit for her. She was looking in that area, it fit her major. We sent it to her, and she ended up getting that job. So that was a great kind of example of you never know who you can meet, what opportunities might be out there if you just kind of seize them. Additionally, whenever we coach students on networking, we talk a lot about how to generate good conversation. First of all, you want to show sincere interest in the other person, which is in dating something very similar. You want to show interest in that person. The other thing is when you want to generate good conversation in a networking situation, you don't want to ask yes or no questions. You want to ask questions that are going to be that are going to elicit more conversation. So asking more open-ended conversation, which I think those are things that you could apply in a dating situation.
Tim Sweet. I'm Assistant Professor of Entrepreneurship here at Grove City, and from time to time I've been known to talk about sales, and from time to time I've been known to talk about the analogy of dating, because sales in many ways is like dating. I think sales is like dating in a couple of respects. First of all, there is a prospect, right? Dating is like prospecting, isn't it? Now, that goes by lots of different terms, right? Do people still talk about scoping? There's Facebook stalking, I know. That's a form of prospecting, right? When the freshman girls arrive, do the guys spend a lot of time on mygcc.edu looking at the freshman girls? Do they check out the freshman girls and the upperclassmen? In my day at Grove City, they used to play something called buzzer bingo. And they would go to North. I did play this once. They would go to North, and at that time there was like a buzzer system. And if you needed a date or you wanted to meet a girl, sometimes you'd go to North and you just hit a random buzzer. And if a girl came down that you thought was interesting, you'd go talk to her. If she wasn't what you were hoping for or expecting, you pretended like you didn't ring the buzzer. I did that with my friend once. He needed a date, and I said, well, let's just go play buzzer bingo. And we went over to North, and we ended up finding a girl that he went out with that night. So that worked out pretty well. Prospecting is very important to sales. You have to find out who are the potential candidates, and there are all kinds of ways that people, do that. One of the keys to any kind of prospecting, however, is when you're doing prospecting, you have to go for the appointment. Because if you don't get an appointment, that prospect really isn't a prospect. Until you engage in some sort of dialogue, you set an appointment, and so, guys, it's important to actually ask. Here's another sales principle that I think applies by way of analogy in the dating world as well. A prospect who is listening is not a prospect at all. Have you ever been on a date when you didn't do a lot of talking? You just did a lot of listening, right? And is that a great date when you're just silently listening to the other person talk about themselves? Well, what is that person trying to do? Sometimes guys are nervous, right? Sometimes girls are nervous. They may talk too much about themselves. Is that a good format for sales? I don't think so. Really good prospecting, really good sales technique is all about carrying on a meaningful dialogue. It's as true on a first date as it is in an initial sales call. There's a third principle that I'd like to share with you, and it's this, that you can't really sell anyone on anything. They have to discover it themselves. There are certainly some intellectual dimensions of that, and there are emotional dimensions and psychological dimensions, but sometimes it's just a feeling of, yes, this is a good fit, and we might even be a good fit for the rest of our lives. And sometimes that's just something you feel in the process. But if the process is right, lots of good questions are being asked, lots of discovery takes place, you'll know whether a sale or a wedding is the right next step.
Okay, this is Dr. Stringer, and let me tell you a little bit about my business experience. It's terrible. I personally, 3 times in an entrepreneurial enterprise, failed. I lost probably a total of about $10,000 in the endeavor. That's pretty much the way it is with dating. After about 2 or 3 times, when you kind of fall on your face and you lose all the money that you've placed in gifts and candy and flowers and stuff, you kind of get the idea that maybe you shouldn't launch in again. But my advice to you is that don't give up the ship. Go out on a limb, get a credit card, and begin to decide what is a good investment in terms of maybe a business to invest in. Same thing with dating. Find a good candidate. I mean, the best way to discover this is to take this person on a date, but make sure before the date you go on devotions. Have some close, intimate time where you can be together, study God's Word, where you can pray together, and if it works out, you're a spiritual entrepreneur.
I am Carla Ligo. I teach Spanish here. I'm a part-time professor. I've been asked about dating advice and communication, how to link both of them. I teach Spanish, so to me, if you speak clearly and speak correctly, you avoid a lot of misunderstandings that could lead to all kinds of embarrassing situations. Business world, if you put your foot in your mouth, you might end up in a lot of trouble. You might end up without a job, which would not be a good thing. Or you might lose an account, which would also not be a very good thing. In the personal arena, I think it would be more or less the same thing. You might lose a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You might lose a family member. Today I was using cognates and false cognates in class, and one of them could land you in trouble if you're a girl and you say that you're embarazada instead of embarrassed, which would be apenada. That would mean that you're telling someone you're pregnant. So that would cost you dearly there. Basically, be clear in what you speak and how you speak. Make sure that if you are using a different language, that you know the correct terms, and that if you're using cognates or false cognates, that you know which one belongs to what you're trying to say before you really royally mess up.